All right, peace.
Peace, brother.
Let's discuss. What's your take between the Taino language and Arawak?
The Taino language and the Arawak. Do you mean the Taino language and the Lakono language?
Yeah.
You mean the Taino? Okay. Just to get it out there for the people, the Arawak language. It's not just one Arawak language. There's a bunch of Arawak languages. The Arawakan languages. And Arawak is basically this umbrella name that they give to a language family that's one of the biggest in the Americas, and we're fortunately a part of that. The Taino language, in my opinion, is very close to the Lakono language, and it follows Lakono syntax and structure. I know a lot of people, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they like or favor the Kalinago or the Garifuna languages. And those are languages that are in relation, they're relatives, they're relatives. But for me, I would lean towards the Lakono. I would lean towards studying Lakono more. I do study the Kalinago language. Brother Rene, who's a very intelligent brother and a great personality and spokesman for Taino culture, if he was to choose to be so. Put me on a little bit more to the Kalinago language. Well, I've been doing some heavy studying on it. I just feel that the Lakono language is closer to the Taino language. The fact that the Taino have documented Daka is a big thing for me, because we see the Yeti being documented with Dakia. We see the the Lakono using Dakia at one time. Dakia. They drop that these days. Now the Lakono, from my studies and from what I get, they tend to use daily. They kind of drop dakia. They use daily, or they use day and da. For the I my dakia meaning I my. Just to put that out there. So, in my opinion, the Lakono is a lot closer. We see that the Kalinago is similar, but I wouldn't say it uses the same structure. Some words are very different, where as far as the Lakono to the Taino, you see words that are very, like they have a word house, the word bahi, right, in the Lakono means house, and you see variations of it, bahi, bahun, and bahu, right? Then you get the Arawak Taino, you get bohio. This is very similar. Taino language is an Arawak language. Well, for lack of a better term, the Arawak language, as we know, is an umbrella. It's an umbrella name for a bunch of languages. Arawak today, for the most part, it's referring to the Lakono language. So would you say, because Arawak, as far as Taino is concerned, as far as referencing to the term Taino, is kind of like outdated. You get that in a lot of older books. These days, they'll just say Taino, and it's the Taino language, and it's an Arawakan language. I say Arawakan language. The relationship between Taino and Lakono, I think it's the closest. I know there's like this, a lot of people are leaning towards the Garifuna and the Kalinago. Here's my thing with that. Yes, we see a lot of influence, we see a lot of words. We're not sure if it's influence or just borrowing. We know it's loan words, and we know we know that the Caribs came into the Lesser Antilles, and we know that they mixed in with Arawakan speaking people, the Yeti, right? But the thing is this, even when you deal with the chronicles and the people at that time who were there, they always said that they were two different languages. And when you study like the Kalinago language, when you study Carib, you see it's very different. But then when you study the Kalinago language, you see that it's an Arawakan language. I don't even look at the Carib. I don't even look at the Kalinago as like a full-blown Carib language. It's very Arawakan, but with a lot of Carib influences. The relationship between the Taino and Arawak language. Well, off the gate, the first thing that comes to mind when you ask the question like that is the word Daka. Daka is documented. That's very close to the the Lakono back in like the 1890s, they were documented using Dakia. So we have the Taino Daka, we got the Lakono Dakia. These days they dropped that though. These days they use Daily. These days a lot of them are not even speaking the language, to keep it real. They're trying to reform their language, but it's another subject for another time. But they're using Daily as I, my. The Tainos have Daka, I, my. Dios na boria Daka. It's a very famous sentence that's documented. I am a servant of God. The fact that the Lakono had Dakia shows that we're kind of offshooting off of that language. Why do I say that? We also have some Arawakan languages that are relatives, like the Kalinago and the Garifuna. Their I, my tends to be using the N sound, a ni or a nu, a ni, for the most part ni. The Garifuna will say, like Nugia. The Kalinago say something similar, Nugia. I feel, for me, the Lakono is closer to the Taino language than anything. We get the word in Lakono Bahi, or Bahun, or Bahu, and it means house. And then we get that in the Taino Bohio, very similar. We have in the Lakono Kasikwa, my house, or like owner of the house. Then we have the Taino word Kasike, which I feel it means owner of the house and land, something like landlord, or the owner of the house and land, the guy in charge, the guy who owns, the guy who's running things, owner of the house and land, or owner of house and land. In moving forward with the Taino language, I keep posting this on like Facebook pages. What do we know and how do we use it? And I don't get too much of an answer. So I'll throw myself out there and I'll put a little information out of what I do. Since I do favor the Lakono, I tend to use their language structure and I play with the Taino language. Here's a quick example, alright? We'll keep this real quick. The word Okama, right? Listen or hear, Okama, right? We can add Lakono suffixes and create new words. We could, how about like bo? I know a lot of people use bo as man. I don't agree with that. I look at that as more of a title, as far as a high-ranking person, something on the level of like lord or sire, something like that. Like dealing with rank. On the level of toponyms, it deals with something big, a lot. Okay, but I don't get just plain man out of that. So Okama bo. If Okama is listen, we add the Lakono suffix bo, meaning to continue, kind of like the English ing, like run, running, walk, walking. Well, Okama, listen, Okama bo, listening. Now, we can create words like this. Okama bo, listening, hearing. Okama fa, will listen, will hear. Fa is the future tense in the Lakono. Osamate, let us listen. We can create words like this. Now here's the thing. Are we going to use the Kalinago, Garifuna, or the Lakono? Which languages are we going to borrow from? Nobody's saying anything to me. I don't know what people are using. I'm just doing what I do. And I do tend to favor the Lakono language. And in my laptop, in my laptop, that's what I do. And I'll usually do that. Deal with the Lakono. And I do see the Kalinago. I do use the Kalinago. But we already have Taino. And let's say the Kalinago pluralizing suffix, they do nu. But we already have no in the Taino language. Taino, right? No being the pluralizing suffix. The Kalinago, they use nu. So if we borrow from the Kalinago, what are we going to borrow and how are we going to use it? Here's the thing. If they turn O's into U's, are we going to turn all our O's into U's if we do that? That kind of doesn't happen with the Lakono. We don't really have to do that with the Lakono language. That's why I feel like it's a little closer in a lot of ways more than one. Not just the Dakia, but in syntax, structure, the SVO, subject, verb, object kind of structure going on.
Yeah, so how do we start a conversation? Like as far as,
In Taino, we
yeah.
can't start a conversation in Taino. In Lacono and Kalinago, you can start conversations. They have a language. There's a lot of words we don't have. That's why I'm curious to find out what these groups are using, but they don't want to share the information. Or I guess they're all like a work in progress, so they don't want to put it out there. But I would like to see every now and then somebody post something a little bit new, a little bit chance taking, put themselves out there. It don't matter if it's wrong. It'll get corrected, and then we can move forward with the right information. I don't mind being wrong or getting checked, because then we could get to a certain truth when we do that. But like take like in Lacono you could talk, in Kalinago you could talk. This, how do you say what's your name in Taino? We haven't decided that yet, or at least nobody has brought that to my information. I do see a lot of Taino words that are coming from other languages and being just altered a little bit, and I also see us just using Kalinago words. For the most part, the Taino words that I hear when people do communicate in Taino are not Taino at all. They're Kalinago. All I see is hahong, mabrika, hanhan katu, right? Those are Kalinago words. So it's almost like there is no Taino being spoken. But how can we use it? I like to use the Lacono prefixes, suffixes. I like the way they verbalize, nominalize. I like the way they do it. I feel more comfortable with that one. Not just because I'm more familiar with it, because I see like the relation, the bawa, water on both ends. A lot more words that are a lot closer. You could take a word like ako, I, right? And then you could kind of like verbalize it by adding the suffix da. And then this ako, which was just I, could now turn into maybe like staring at, just to give some spice to the language, to change up the language. And I just want to see people be more brave enough to not worry about if they're right or wrong, just to throw it out there. Of course, study the language and don't do anything silly. Make sure that if you're going to present a new word, give us some evidence to back it up. Give us some evidence within the language to back that up, to make sure that it's within the language structure of Arawak, But take a word like ajiahu, right? Adding the hu to ajia or ahia, to speak, right? The hu, yes, is a sign of respect, but in the Lacono language, it's also used to describe like abstract things. Ahia, talk, when adding the hu to it, can turn into a word like speech, or something like that, like word like speech. Ahia bo, ahia talk, ahia bo, talking. Ahia fa, will talk. We could play with the languages like that. But I don't really see too many people doing that. I guess they're being very careful of studying the language. I just want to see a little bit more of that. Because if we are going to speak this language, we have to actually start speaking it.